When you think of grand strategy games, you may think of long military build-ups that lead to equally long conflicts in which you'll have to macromanage your units and develop your plans that will make your forces victorious on the battlefield, a little bit like how a general would manage an army. You think of nations subjugating or crushing their neighbors for the sole purpose of quenching their thirst for power, and while you may do so if you desire to, while unlike in other Paradox titles like Europa Universalis or Stellaris for example, it is not the focus of Victoria 3, which focuses more on the societal aspect of the nations that make up the game rather than military warfare. So, how does this change make Victoria 3 a fun game to play? How does it look or compared to what we are used to with other titles? And perhaps most importantly, is it good enough to keep you involved throughout the course of an entire game? These are some of the questions that we will try to answer throughout this review. We will of course review its technical side too, because there are a couple of things to talk about as well, and spoiler, that's not very good, but I will elaborate on that throughout, of course, the rest of this video. So, we will start this review with what makes Victoria stand out from the rest of the flock of Paradox grand strategy games, and that is how the game makes you run the society of the nation that you selected at the start of your game, and how your decisions and actions are going to impact the people who live within your borders, but also the people of other nations as well, at the time period chosen for the setting of the game that perhaps justifies this game's design choice, since the 19th century was an era of unprecedented change throughout human history, both technological and societal, and this is what Victoria 3 is trying to depict. The most representative element of that depiction are the pups, which, as you may have guessed, represent a nation's population. Pups are divided into multiple subcategories based on their education, wealth, job, ethnic group, location, religion, and political affiliation. And your job as ruler of your nation is to ensure their development, opportunities, and prosperity based not on what you think is the best for them, but on what they think is best for them. And that's the most interesting part of the game, in my opinion, because it may be tempting to govern with our mind of the 21st century and give our people the rights that we benefit from nowadays, such as gender equality, universal warfare, or social security for some countries. But by passing such laws in the 19th century, people instead view you as a despot who is going against the will of the people, and will start to organize themselves into revolutionary groups that will try to overthrow you in favor of a ruler who will be more in touch with their demands and needs. Interestingly, as the game progresses towards the 20th century, so does your society, and that is why you always need to keep an eye on the trends of your society so that you can take the wisest decision that will allow you to stay in power until 1936, which is when the game ends. But keeping in touch politically in Victoria 3 is not enough, because if your pups realize that their ideal society is the reason why they live in miserable conditions, they will radicalize too and will try to overthrow you as well. That is why it is essential in the game to make sure that your pups' standards of living improve as your society modernizes, and to do that you will have to provide them with a strong enough economy that will grant them higher salaries with more affordable and abundant goods such as clothing, food or furniture, so that they can enjoy their lives of citizens of the industrial age. Again, it may be tempting to focus on producing much more lucrative luxury goods that you will then export to other markets, but if you are not producing what your population needs, it means that you will have to import it, which means that it will be more expensive and will make you more vulnerable to outside factors too, which is a risk given the importance of volatility of foreign affairs in Victoria 3. Because the 19th century was not only a period of societal change, but it was also a time of immense international changes as well, changes that in many ways shaped the world that we know today. It marked the creation of nation-states that we know today, such as Germany, Japan, or Italy. It marked the downfall of Imperial China, Austria, Turkey, and these changes happened for plenty of reasons, whether they were because their rulers were out of touch with reality, or because their people were aspiring for something different. All of these changes will happen throughout the timeline of your game and could impact how you trade, who you are allied with, or the very foundations of your societies, as ideals do cross borders and do get eventually extended or entrenched whether you like it or not. If you are a very traditionalist, Catholic, patriarchal society, but your neighbor develops socialism and feminism, it will spread in your country and will change the way your pop thinks, so you'll have to keep an eye for that. The 19th century was also a century of wars, and warfare, although minimal in Victoria 3, is still part of the game. And while a war may be catastrophic if you lose it, it can also, deplete your population and ruin your economy. It can also bring great benefits if carefully planned and properly executed. One of the key elements in warfare in Victoria 3 lies during the diplomatic play period that happens before the actual conflict. It is basically the negotiating table where the parties present their goals but also convince potential allies to join their side. Should your strength be considered overwhelming to the opposite party, you may end up getting what you want without even firing a single shot. Beware, though, of the favors or obligations that you'll owe to your allies, as they may force you to take decisions that will go against the will of your people and thus will increase the level of turmoil within your country. For example, when I invaded and conquered Holland as Belgium, Prussia helped me fight the Netherlands, but a few years later they asked me to make my military a part of my government because, of course, they are Prussia. And despite being a liberal democracy, I had no choice but to agree, or else I would have upset my powerful and militaristic neighbor, which of course I didn't want to do because we all know what happens when you upset Prussia. Just ask France. Of course, when you are playing a video game, we want to be entertained, we want to have some fun, and so by now, if you haven't tried Victoria 3 but yet are thinking about it, you may be asking yourself whether it is fun or not to play. And my answer is that just like Hearts of Iron, it is an acquired taste. Quite frankly, the first couple of hours were very overwhelming because it felt like a lot was going on, and yet I had no idea about what to do, nor what the consequences of my choice or actions would be. Luckily, the game offers as well a well-done hands-on tutorial that lets you learn from the ropes of the different aspects of the game, and slowly but surely, I would say after a good 10 hours, you can finally get to play autonomously, and this is where Victoria starts to become an enjoyable experience. Are you going to make your economy prosper for the well-being of your pups, or will you create a war machine that will crush your neighbors? Will you favor the establishment of your country, or will you give the means that will allow your people to emancipate themselves? Will you become a colonial power or an economic juggernaut via your own innovations? As always with Paradox titles, you define your own goals, and being able to put your plans in motion and seeing them come true through your hard work is fun and rewarding, and will make you keep on playing for many hours, and as long as you know how to do that, right? So, what may however, what may not entice you to play again, though, are some of the bugs and technical issues that do plague the overall experience. And sure, there is no doubt that Paradox will bring in some hot fixes in the future, but as I am writing those lines, the game often lags and stutters, making it barely playable, and to fix that, I have to reboot my system a couple of times until it finally decides for some reason to let me play normally. Apparently, it's a known issue, so I am sure that it will be addressed further down the line. Another problem that I find annoying is that it appears that some characters, especially rulers, but sometimes generals as well, just don't die. They will stay in power until well beyond 90 years old, sometimes over 100, and it's just ridiculous. As someone who loves history, I find that utterly immersion breaking, and I hope that it will also be addressed. Apart from that, the game runs smoothly, and I haven't had any other noticeable issue. Victoria is an interesting, dare I say, compelling society simulator that lets you recreate history while learning at the same time. I just wished it gave a few more military options and had a less steep learning curve. I'll give you the score of 7 out of 10, with 1 point being taken away for the unacceptable technical difficulties that should hopefully be addressed in the future. But let me know in the comment section down below, guys, do you enjoy Paradox interactive grand strategy games? Which one do you play? Are you interested in Victoria 3? This game convince you to pick it up? Well, let me know in the comment section down below. Also, if you are a Victoria 3 player, which country do you play as? Right now, I'm finishing my tutorial as Belgium. I'm probably going to be playing as France in my next run, so if you have any tips or advice, let me know as well. That is all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. It's been the Eradicator. I will see you guys later.